minds like us, growing in years, with a goal to make a change of the world around your race. They've been able to set the pace.
Hello and welcome to your favorite program, Youth Engage. Today, our icon and profile in this episode belongs to the class of very few Nigerian public servants, dubbed as one of the three triumvirate and pace setters in the history of civil service in Nigeria, who successfully imbibes the discipline and character that the British colonial masters tried to bequeath to Nigerians. He is none other than Chief Phillip Asiodu, CON, who left the nation's civil service with the unofficial tag of Super Permanent Secretary, a reputation largely associated with immense stature he acquired in government and the influence he wielded in the public service. Phillip Asiodu was born on February 26, 1934 in Lagos State to Mr. Philip Chibuzo and Mrs. Caroline Nodu Asiodu. He attended Hope Waddell Training Institute, Calabar, and St. Paul's School, Ebutimeta, Lagos, before proceeding to King's College, Lagos, where his several brilliant performances as an astute sportsman and intercollegiate tournament hero culminated in key positions for him as a house captain, school prefect, and chairman of the elitist student council, King's College Society, before he proceeded to Queen's College, Oxford, where he obtained at first a bachelor's and later a master's degree in philosophy, politics, and economics, PPE, then referred to as Modern Greats in September 1956. He also added a diploma in French language studies from the University of Poitiers. When Chief Asiodu, the Izoma Ahaba of Asaba, where he comes from, joined the Nigerian Civil Service in 1960 at the age of 26, he was privileged to serve under the cover of the British Permanent Mission under a distinguished British diplomat, Sir Pearson Dixon. Phillip Asiodu was posted to the Ministry of External Affairs in Lagos and as the representative of Nigeria on the Six Nation Provisional Secretariat of the Nascent Organization of African Unity, OAU, at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Chief Asiodu first served under General Gowon before and during the Nigeria-Biafra War. He was instrumental in the U-turn of the Aburi Accord by Gowon. He later became special advisor to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, on economic affairs. In 1999, he was appointed Chief Economic Advisor to the former Nigerian President, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, and happily married to Mrs. Eugenia Olajumoke Ni Pereira. They are graciously blessed with children and grandchildren. Welcome to Youth Engage.
When I went back with Obasanjo Uncle in 1999, he now wanted to reintroduce order and things in the civil service. He brought Professor Adedeji to do some retraining. We republished the civil service rules, which tell you what you can do and not do. The financial instructions, they are all there. But the point is that if the leadership, government coming down, is not willing to apply sanctions promptly, equally, and without any favoritism, things will never work. 7 out of 10 people, if they think they can get away with something, they will be tempted to do it. So, many of these laws are still there. It is a question of getting the leadership to re-insist that they must be followed. You must not appoint people who can't do the job. I'm quite prepared to say we have a position to fill. 10 people, we have 5 positions to fill. 20 people apply. It happens that one state has the first 4 people. we can agree that, okay, take two of them, be unkind to two. But of the people you want to take, each one of them must meet the minimum standard set and be able to perform. What is wrong is you don't take the first two or three or four, then you now start like people are now trying to do, because people are not meeting standards. You now want cut-off point to enter university to be depressed in a world which is more competitive. You only punish yourself. Those are the things which we have to address. And when we apply sanctions equally and promptly, people will sit up, you know.
So, sorry to jump in again, but on that note, yes, we acknowledge that the leadership have their role to play, them being our leaders and being in the place of power. But how can the youths or the public play their own part to ensure that this is
You see, I'm quite sympathetic to anybody under 60 in this country. Many of you are under 60. I have never seen this country in order. Because this coup of 66 happened 51 years ago. Most people under 10, you don't really know what's happening. You see, this is the great pity. What you say has to do with going back and restoring educational standards from primary, secondary, tertiary. When we were in school, elementary, you come to your classroom, you see plaques. Honesty is the best policy. Stitch in time saves 9. And so forth and so on. You walk past it, but you read it. It goes into your subconscious. How many schools these days do you see that? So we must go back again. It's not a one day's job. And start saying, this will take us nowhere, what we're doing now. We're in fact on the precipice. Those of us who knew how we slid into civil war were really alarmed. So we have to build back our education, and of good quality. God gave all of us some basic IQ. I'm very distressed about what I'm reading. 110, 120. What for? Now, but even before we rebuild from the beginning, the role all of us have to play is to say, well, thank God, we've come where we are. What we are doing now is not sustainable. We must go back to those core values. When we were growing up, mortgage loans were not easily available. So our fathers, when they were building house, they save money, they do the foundation, they build it up. Save some more money, 3 years later, they take it to the decking. Save some more money, it takes them 10, 12 years to complete the house. And then they have a sitting room like this. Keep it clean. And you stay in the same position for 10 years, earning your increment, and when you are promoted, everybody knows you deserved it. You didn't cut corners. Now, we too, while we are praying for the divine accident of a great leadership, should also say, look, if we want to compete with the world, which I was painting to you, Asians, Europeans, Americans, we are Africans. If we must be in that world, compete with respect, then even whatever we can do to say that is not good, we should. The more you play as a team, the stronger you are. One of those things too, they used to show you, take one broomstick, you break it, you get a whole broom. It's not easy. Even if you are one of the broom waving people, it's not easy. So we can play a role, but we are hoping that we will persuade a leadership of this country to say enough is enough, and that henceforth this is the way we go. The president locally says change begins with me. That's so. If we started now saying the top public salary, president gross salary and allowances, 35 million. It's still generous. And then you cascade down. Governors, 30, and president of Senate and all that. But increase the salary of the teacher. Give him more prestige. Reconstruct the educational sector. Because without education, nowhere. And it may not be in your question, but when my big regret of 75 is that I had hoped, on the back of the success of the National Youth Corps, to introduce a language policy. And what is this language policy? Designed to promote national integration. Like now, if your parents are the same language, you learn it at home. You don't have to go there. I'm from Asaba, my father and mother. I speak Asaba dialect. I've never lived there. Unfortunately, I didn't start school here. Started in Calabar, so I didn't learn Yoruba. But that's that. Now, where you start school, you learn the language there, whether it's Efik, Igbo, Yoruba, whatever. But and at 10, like now, English is introduced. Very important, international language. But the change I want to see is if you're a northerner in the north there, you must choose one southern language, which the schools must prepare to teach you to read and write up to this thing. The chances are that northern boy will choose Igbo or Yoruba. Not so. Now, if you're in south, you must choose one northern language. The chances are you will choose Hausa, not Igbo, not Igbera, not. The upshot will be like for Swiss people today. When you meet a Swiss person, whether it's German Swiss, Italian Swiss, or French Swiss, they have one or two languages in common, apart from English. Now, you project yourself, say 15, 20 years hence, if we're able to introduce it in 2 years' time, the children, of course, I would also insist on compulsory education. So in 20 years, there will be no illiterate Nigerian. 2, any 2 people meeting who've been to school will have more than 1 or 2 Nigerian languages. We would have been bombarded to the same global media, pressures. We're about the same color. We will be talking ethnicism. And what I'm saying is not, you may not know, it's not fantastic. Castro abolished illiteracy in Cuba in 20 years. Now the Cubans, whether you say they were communists or depressed or later, best health conditions in that place, no illiterate Cuban. See what they do for sports as a small country, whatever propaganda may be against them. And coming back to Nigeria itself, first Yoruba lawyer, Shakpara Williams, 1875. First Igbo lawyer, 1937. See the gap? But by 1960, we're able shouting that we don't have lawyer. So if you're obliged, you pick up. Rome was not built in a day. Our tragedy is that since the impunity, it must be, of 1975 and the destruction of what used to be order, people want instant so-called politicians. Is something I must do, not just in my lifetime, but in these 4 years I'm there. Today. You know, you asked me, I was involved in power, oil, and all that. I was the founding chairman of NEPA. By 1973, 2 years before I stepped down from NEPA, we got Motu Columbus of Switzerland, Chaumont Engineering of Canada to project Nigeria's power requirements from 75 to 2000. They did. Identified the thermal sites, identified the hydro sites, pipeline systems required and all that. Can you find that report today in so-called Ministry of Mines, Power, whatever they call? No. Why? You know? Did we do anything about it? No. So you must think ahead. And what I would want to recommit themselves to planning. You know, so it's for you to, as you say, you have a role to play, even if you are in a minority amongst your generation.
So, sir, aside from performing our roles and obligations at the citizens level, what opportunities are there for youth in governance? For instance, you became a permanent secretary at a youthful age of 30. Is that even possible in our world, in Nigeria today?
Not quite 30, 31. But the point is that we were at the transitional stage. So we're probably a bit lucky. But despite that, when you go back in history, the achievements of Alexander the Great, it was about 21, 22. So the thing is this, that what I'm advocating, for us to go back to the old procedures. We used to, in my days as PAMSEC, maybe every other week they will be in Ibadan campus or ABU, discussing with the professors. And we used to go before the exams to the deans and the heads of departments, say, who are your best students? Try, and when we got there, we talked to them, trying to bring them in. The better your intake, the better the outcome. This is why I'm so sad about, what people are trying to do in the academic sector. So we will get, and in the civil service itself, you went about looking for high flyers, people whom you think had more than average ability. You gave them acting assignments, you challenged them, and they shone. It is that type of continuous management which we must reintroduce. Continuous, people have more technical names now. You have human resources departments, identification of talent, and continuous development, training and retraining. In those days, we went to what you called, forgotten now, but that is what we must go back to. It's not just the youth alone. The people now in charge must discover. For instance, I'm in some consultative meetings because we're in a national crisis. Never minding some people just talking, we're all right and so forth. We're not all right. We're not doing enough to prevent the worst happening. And I've, in for more than 2 or 3 years now, I said, try and find a list, by state, by region, by zone. People between the age of 27 and 65, 50 or 60 per state. people who are really willing to work hard, are idealistic, whose they are not people who want to become billionaires overnight. And people who realize the meaning of that saying, Rome was not built in a day. Because when you see the rubbish we read these days, somebody saying, I only took 400 million. I only took, of what? You kept the 400. You know, it's a, but he's saying that because he's saying somebody must have taken more. It is this lack of sanctions, you know, that allows that kind of talk. Or lack of shame too. You are saying you're a thief, but you only took less than somebody else. Before it was not possible for a man belonging to a family to admit to that. So we must create room for talent to show. And you do it by making a conscious effort to be on the continuous search and challenge individuals to perform of their best. Set standards which everybody knows. For this is what we require. And challenge people who meet it to meet it. We must go back to standards, international standards, nothing like African standard. For instance, up till 1972 or so, 5 even, I'm talking about punctuality now, African time. If there was to be a banquet with head of state or something, 2 weeks before then you knew who will come and who will come because you say yes or no. So you know where to position security agents in beautiful tuxedo, if you like, without the rubbish going on. Then suddenly after about 1980, you call me to a place, you go there, head of state is sitting down, then somebody is coming 30 minutes late and is still admitted to the place. And so they now call you, oh, governor will be there by 9:30. You know he won't be there till 11. And that should not happen. I don't allow it. Even my last time in Abuja, when I had to arrange meetings where the head of state would come, you know, I would phone. They said they were asking him to wait. I said no. And we start. You do that twice, people will come on time. So all this decline, we must wake up and say to ourselves, enough is enough. So the real thing really is that first, we must agree on minimum standards. We must agree on stages you must pass. We must agree to manage people's career continuously. You know, and then if there is a high flyer or a genius, so be it.
Thank you, sir. Sir, you're a presidential aspirant. So what would you have done regarding the youth and Nigeria as a nation?
As I said, the first thing is education. I would have made sure that enough resources were put in to restore education to the international level. The type we had, where we could leave secondary school in Nigeria and go to the best universities. I would improve the status of teachers, pay them more, give them more respect, make sure that the school premises are fine, and build on. Secondary schools, I would. It was Duke of Wellington who said that the Battle of Waterloo was won on the playing fields of Eton. I'll make sure those schools are not only good academically, but we must restore places where they can play. I go to schools now, I weep. Just see a building like this. They say secondary school. Not a place for football, not a place for swimming and all that. So schooling, and then as I said earlier, this exchange program to bring universities back where the Nigerian universities will number, at least amongst the best 100, 200, not where we are 1,000 and below. So that we must do. Then the rest of the program is what I've been saying. Apart from education, infrastructure, power. If we had normal power, many of these things coming from China would not come because it costs you 8 times generating from your own diesel. And we had that program, which was never followed. I would have insisted on that. And then, in fact, the general, you enter a Nigerian port. Is it welcoming? Go to the airport, they ask you to come to this thing. We talk about tourism, we talk about many things. We must, as a country, become disciplined, orderly, and welcoming so that the world will say this is a good place to do business. And I entered as a candidate because I thought they were not discussing issues. And I published my manifesto there. And there is an article I wrote recently about Nigeria in distress, which way forward, which I would send to you, make it available to them. The last 10 pages are what I think any president which wants to move us forward, irrespective of party, must do. Because Nigeria is more important than tribe or party.
So, sir, you still believe in the success of the youth?
Yes, because the youth are the future. I have children and grandchildren. And I don't know, I may wait to see some great-grandchildren. And I believe that God did not create the blacks to be numbered perennially as inferior species. And we must correct it. There was a time we were not. If I had time, I would quote from Horace, writing before Christ about certain things from Africa. So we must go back and reclaim our place in history and restore respect for the black man.
Thank you for watching.